Hi, my name is Ed Shanshala. I'm the CEO of Amanuset Community Health Services. At ACHS, we realize you do not need to be a French bistro chef to prep and serve meals that you feel good about. That's why our Food is Medicine program is designed that from 30 minutes prep to plate, you too can serve nutritious meals.
My name is Mina Flato, and I'm the Teaching Kitchen Instructor for Amanuset Community Health Services Food is Medicine program. I was a teacher for 20 years before this, and one of the biggest focuses in my classroom was that food doesn't have to have morality. Food is really not about good and bad, it's about nutrient dense and non-nutrient dense. And here at Amanuset Community Health Services, that's our focus with this program. We want to help you get your food prepped to plate in 30 minutes or less. So we're going to make some broccoli salad. This is a little reminiscent of coleslaw with the dressing that we add to it. It's a mayonnaise base, but there's a lot of different ways you can make broccoli salad. This is just one here that we found that's delicious. So we already have 2 heads of broccoli chopped up pretty tiny in here. So the smaller you get the broccoli, the better it can absorb all the flavors of the dressing. So that's just something to keep in mind. So we're trying to get it pretty tiny. When I'm breaking down the broccoli, first thing I like to do is just kind of take the tip of a nice sharp knife, by the way, which is really important. If your knife is dull, it's actually more dangerous than if it's sharp. So it's important to make sure that your knife is well sharpened before you begin. So I'm just taking the tip, keeping my hands pretty far from everything, and I'm just popping off all the florets. And then we'll go from there to trim them down a little bit better. So we're going to end up with something at the end that's going to look a little gnarly, the remainders of the stalk, but that's okay. So this is going in the trash. Some people like to save that for soups and stocks and things like that. You certainly could. I know when I was a kid, my grandmother would actually save those in the freezer over time. Like she'd save her onion skins and everything. And then once she had enough, she would make a really beautiful soup base. So you certainly could do that if you wanted to. So once these get broken down, you can just kind of use your hands to break them down a little bit further. So if you chop right up close to the actual green bits, the florets, just keep breaking these down. It is a bit of a messy process because the broccoli kind of breaks into little pieces, but broccoli is so nutritious, and it's one of those things that when it's prepared just right, it can be so delicious. We're getting there. And this is kind of a nice, I find stuff like this to be almost like a meditative practice. So if I'm just kind of in my kitchen and I'm just chopping and I'm there by myself and maybe I'm listening to a little bit of music, it's just kind of a relaxing thing to do. There's no reason to rush. Just kind of take your time and work your way through your chopping. There we go. Sometimes you chop it just right and it all kind of falls apart the way you need it. Perfect. And this one. 2 to go. All right. The recipe calls for 5 to 6 cups. So I find that if you do 2 good-sized broccoli crowns and then you've got like one that's a little smaller afterward, that tends to be about right. So it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, fantastic. So we've got our broccoli in our bowl, all chopped up nice and tiny. We've now got some sharp cheddar cheese. We've got a cup of it. This can be pre-shredded or you can shred it yourself. I think this could also work if you were to cube it. You just would want the cubes to be kind of tiny. So we're going to add that in. Next, we're going to go ahead and chop up a little bit of this red onion. I've got it cut in half because I'm going to use the other half for another recipe. So when you're working with an onion, once you get it chopped, you just want to peel off the outer layers. I basically peel until I feel like it's looking not too tough. So I'm liking the way this is looking. For our purposes here today, we just need 1/3 of a cup of red onion. So we're just going to dice it like this. I'm going to go ahead, slice it thinly. I don't know about you, but onion always makes me feel emotional. Feeling a little emotional at the moment. Hopefully I don't cry. And then I'm going perpendicular. Anytime you're working with onion, you want to make sure that the pieces are small Nobody wants to get a big mouthful of onion in their salad. Those are looking pretty good. Into the bowl. Oof, onion is in my eyeballs. All right, where are we at next? So we are moving on to cranberries. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to add 2/3 of a cup of cranberries. So we've got the 1/3 of a cup. And our second scoop of dried cranberries. Trying to run away from me. Awesome. So now we're going to add in crumbled bacon. You certainly could cook this from scratch, but if you're in a time crunch or in a pinch, sometimes it's nice to go with a pre-made option. So we're just going to go with bacon bits. 1/4 of a cup. Bacon also tends to be something where I like to measure with my heart sometimes. So going a little over with your bacon, never going to hurt anybody. Awesome. Okay, so we've got that. And sunflower seeds. So we are going to add 1/2 cup of sunflower seeds. These are roasted and salted. If you're watching your salt intake, you certainly can do unsalted ones. That would be fine as well. Put a little bit more. Great. Okay, so that is all of our actual salad ingredients. They're here in the bowl. We're going to let them just relax for a second. We're going to move on to creating our dressing. So we've got a little bit of cheese stuck in here from before. So our dressing, like I mentioned before, is mayonnaise based. We're going to go with a traditional mayonnaise. If you are trying to look for different types of nutrition options, there are lots of different types of mayonnaise out there, but we're just going to go with a traditional standard one. So we're going to do a cup. And our measuring vessel has the measurement right there for a cup for us. So we're just going to go to that. Kind of check it on the sides. That looks pretty good. Looks like about a cup. Put our lid on. And next we are going to add 1.5 tablespoons of white wine vinegar. Doesn't have to be white wine vinegar. This just helps give it that coleslaw type of flavor we were talking about. If all you have is red wine or even apple cider vinegar, any of those things will be fine. So 1.5 tablespoons. And then we're going to add a little bit of sugar. So we are going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar. Just dry off our spoon. And this is raw sugar, a little less processed than the standard white sugar, which is always good. And 3. Perfect. And now we're just going to add some salt. You could add pepper to this as well. That onion is quite strong, so we're going to skip the pepper on this just because the onion is very strong. All right, time to mix. And actually, I'm going to switch to my fork because whisking would be a little more effective here. And a fork works really well as a whisk and a pinch. And it's totally okay if you're looking at this consistency and you think, ooh, I would like that to be a little thinner, or I'd like it to be a little thicker. If you wanted it to be thinner, you could just add a little bit more vinegar. A little thicker, add a little bit more mayo. You could also give it a taste at this point and see if it needs more salt or pepper. Any of those things would be fine. All right, so we got all of our ingredients into our dressing. Now we are going to add our dressing to our salad mixture. So we're just going to scoop it out of here. Perfect. Now we're going to fold it. So we don't want to go crazy on it. We don't want to mash it up. We want to just kind of incorporate the 2 types of ingredients together. Get all those nicely chopped ingredients fully coated in that dressing that we made. And this can be eaten right away if you want to, but it's one of those things where waiting really works in your favor. It really gets better with time. So I recommend you cover it in this dish, put it in your fridge, and leave it. It would be just as good the next day, or even just a couple hours later, but the longer you let it sit, the more it's going to absorb those flavors of the dressing. All right, that's pretty well mixed. So we've got beautiful, freshly chopped broccoli salad.